Happy Maundy Thursday. Today is Maundy Thursday in Holy Week, and Maundy is Latin for mandatum, which just means command. And we see that in our reading today where Jesus washes the disciples' feet, he institutes the Lord's Supper, and he gives them a new command, which is to love one another. So in Luke 22, we see Jesus providing a place for him and his disciples to eat the Passover meal together. And the Passover was actually a feast that was instituted back when Israel was being redeemed out of Egypt under Moses, and it was instituted on the night they were to leave Egypt. So on that night, they were to sacrifice a lamb without defect, to eat it completely and burn the remains, and to take the blood of the lamb and apply it to the doorposts of their home, so that when God came through, he would pass over those that had the blood applied to their doorposts, and death would not touch them. So this feast is really just a picture of Jesus, our Passover lamb, who was without defect, who was sacrificed for us, who, when we apply the blood of Christ to our lives, we do not experience eternal death, and we do not experience judgment. And so it's as if Jesus is breathing new life into this Passover meal by instituting the Lord's Supper. And he takes the cup and he says, "This is my blood, which is poured out for you." And he takes the bread and he says, "This is my body, which is broken for you." And in John 13, we see Jesus taking the form of a servant and washing his disciples' feet, including the one who would betray him, Judas, who we learned yesterday had already gone to the leaders and willingly offered to betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. So a lot happened that night. In Luke 22, we see there's an argument between the disciples of who's the greatest. We see Peter is told that he will deny Jesus 3 times, and Jesus continually is teaching them throughout all of this. And then they leave and they start to head out to one of his favorite spots, which was the Mount of Olives. And as they go, he shares with them this new commandment. And it's in John 13, verses 34 through 35. And it says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." So how does the world know that we love Jesus? It's not our position that tells them that. It's not our personality. It's not even our service in the community. It's our love for one another within the body of Christ. Jesus says to love as he loved us. And if we look at the Gospels, we see how he loved his disciples, that he loved them, he forgave them, he served them, he cared for their souls, he prayed for them, and he was going to die for them. And as they are selfishly arguing about who's the greatest, Jesus selflessly and with humility walks toward the cross. And that's what Maundy Thursday is about. It's a reminder for us of how to love like Jesus loved. So when they arrive to the Mount of Olives, Jesus prays in agony, and he is asking that if it's possible that God would remove the cup of his wrath from him. But then he yields and he says, "But not my will, but yours be done." And at this point, we see Judas seizes this opportunity and he brings the soldiers to Jesus, betrays Jesus with a kiss, and they arrest him, they beat him, they try him, and Peter denies him 3 times. And then we see this little band of disciples begin to unravel. Maybe you feel like you're unraveling. Maybe you feel like you lack love for one another. Maybe you're driven by your passions instead of a servant's heart. Maybe even perhaps you're like Peter and you feel very weak. You feel as if you've been sifted, and you're weak in your love and you're weak in your witness. I want you to hear these words from Hebrews chapter 4. "Since then we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need." I I really hope those verses encouraged you like they encouraged me, that Jesus is drawn to your weakness because he was tempted in every way. He was tempted to run away. He was tempted to flee. He was tempted to not forgive. He was tempted to not love. But he faced every single one of those temptations, and he did it without sin. So when we think about weaknesses, maybe you have a weakness and maybe we'll say it's a sport. You don't go to someone who is just as weak as you are to learn from, right? We want to go to someone who is stronger than us so that we can learn from them. Jesus is strong and kind, and we have confidence to come to his throne of grace and receive grace in time of need. He will help us in our weakness. He helps us to love one another as he has loved us.